allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We could remain standing for just a moment. We'll have a moment of silence for all those people that are suffering in today's world all across the country. Thank you very much. To start with, we have some consent items, which have really, we lump them all together. These are issues that we have discussed and approved. We're just making it official. Number one, we have our regular session minutes dated February the 4th, 2025. Have our liquor minutes dated February the 4th, 2025. Public hearing minutes dated February the 4th, 2025. DNR flood nuisance plan grant modification. And Betterton Still Pond Lions Club is applying for a combined gaming device for March the 8th, 2025. We have any questions?
No.
If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve all 5 of the consent items as presented.
I'll second that. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Next up, we have an application from the Betterton Still Pond Lions Club for a beer and wine permit for March the 8th, 2025. The fact that this is an alcohol hearing, it's in our request, it needs a public hearing. We will allow today to be that public hearing. Anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against this application, please feel free to do so at this time. There being none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the special Class C per diem liquor license application for the Betterton Still Pond Lions Club.
And I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out the absence of Commissioner Nickerson. He's absent today because he's en route to Annapolis to testify in favor of the different amount of our formula of what our county versus state obligations would be in building of a new school. As it is right now, because we're considered a wealthy county, which I would argue that to the end, we have to pay 50% of a new school. There are counties in the state, by the way, that pay 0%. We pay 50% with 19,000 students. So that might be a reason why our schools have some age to them. But they're trying to get that percentage reduced to some reasonable amount. Other counties have, like 2 counties, as I pointed out, pay 0. The state pays it all. There's other counties that have they pay 4%, 6%, 8%, 10%. Kent County, again, has to pay 50%. $80 million school, 19,000 people would be required to pay $40 million back. It's pretty, so that's why he is absent, and he's representing Kent County along with the superintendent and some other speakers in Annapolis today. Next we have departmental requests and updates. We have a second quarter financial statements, general fund as of December 30th, 2024. And I'm assuming, Pat, you're going to take care of that. And by the way, Shelley, our county administrator, is under the weather right now, and nobody better to fill in than our finance person, Pat Merritt. Pat?
Thank you. I have the second quarter financial statements. So these are the financial results for the first 6 months of fiscal year '25. So the first page, and I think you have them with you there, shows the P&L. The revenues have come in total a little over $1.2 million favorable. And as you kind of look at that, you can see that most of it is in income tax. And we'll talk about the other variances in a minute. And on the expense side, you can see that our expenditures total just a little under 30 million at 29.9. And we are $1,082,000 favorable on the expense side. So overall, our position, we are about 2.3 million favorable at the end of the first 6 months. And if you look at the second page, we can kind of see what led to those results. With the revenues, we continue to see high levels of income tax. The state has, continually projected that since, the money has stopped being pushed out, as it was during the years of COVID, that we should see a decline, and this number still remains high. So our income tax at this point is just a little under $1.3 million favorable after 6 months. Other favorable variances that contributed to our position, our interest income. Interest rates continue to remain high, and we have larger balances of cash. The property transfer tax is still favorable. Service charges are higher than anticipated, and the recordation tax. The things that are, I guess, going in the opposite direction is the property tax is about $500,000 under where we budgeted. So overall, that's what contributes to our $265,000 favorable variance. On the expense side,
What is the reason for the property tax?
it's mostly due to the changes that we see, the appeals and the reduced assessments.
Okay.
So we're seeing a little bit more of that than we anticipated at the beginning of the year. Okay, so on the expense side, the largest favorable variance we're seeing in our operating, and you can see the various departments that are showing favorable variances there. That makes up a little over 300,000 of the favorable variance. And then we have our transfers to our other funds. The largest favorable variance there is for the transfer to water wastewater services, and that's mostly due to a vacant position for the division chief out there and turnover that we've experienced. And you can see some of our other agencies, we have smaller favorable variances for the transfers. Our salaries and benefits are still running favorable, just a little under 300,000, and most of that is due to turnover. And you can see the departments listed there that are affected. We also have favorable variances in our seasonal staff and in the related benefits associated with those favorable salary variances. Our contingency fund is just a little under 170,000 favorable. So those are the items that contribute primarily to the little over $1 million favorable variance on the expense side. Not sure if you have any questions or on any of those.
No, that's a good one.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have today.
I guess the next up is the FY 20, no, I'm sorry.
Where is he? LMB.
Yes. 2025 Enough Act Local Management Board Capacity Building Grant. Rosemary, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, welcome.
Okay.
So you may remember at the end of October, I submitted a proposal for the Enough Act funds. That was legislation that was passed last year for, it's called Engaging Neighborhoods, Organizations, Unions, Government, and Households. And it's the Moore administration's approach to reducing child poverty and promoting economic mobility. And so the allocation from that that act that came to local management board in Kent County was $104,000. We submitted a proposal on what we plan to do with those funds, and that was awarded in January. So this is the commencement documentation to accept that award.
Real quickly, you want to just go over some of the things that you would be using that money for?
Yes, we have, it's the funds that were allocated to local management boards are meant to promote capacity building, to support our nonprofits and our other partners, and to start a really community-driven planning process for a specific neighborhood. One of the components of the Enough Act that is really important is that it be place-based. And so they asked us to identify our priority neighborhood in Kent County. And based on the data and demographics, we selected Uptown Chestertown, which includes, from Calvert Street up to Washington Park and Brook Meadows and some of those areas as well. That's where most of our families with children reside. And we have put together an advisory council that will be guiding that process. We have several initiatives that we're partnering with Washington College to do, because in the middle of Uptown is the new innovation plan at 800 High Street. And so we'll be partnering closely to use that kind of as an anchor site for the engagement work. We're also partnering with Queen Anne's County and Talbot County to do to hire a consultant to support some of our nonprofits and help them expand and strengthen their capacity to manage grants, to fundraise, to coordinate and provide higher quality services. And so that has already kind of been set in motion as well. And we also are going to be doing, again, in conjunction with Washington College, we're going to continue the Hip Hop Time Capsule program in the summer, which are about 12 paid summer internships for high schoolers, and they're going to be getting their hands dirty at the innovation plan in Uptown, learning about the history of the community and finding ways to do creative projects that are kind of maker industrial inspired. So some of them will be doing metalworking, others will be doing mural arts, some will do like performative arts. And then we'll also be continuing our work with everyday canvassing. We started that last year with the canvassing, and we knocked on 1,000 doors in the Uptown and Chestertown area, asking folks what their priorities are, what they think is important, especially for children and families. So we have a huge amount of data. We interviewed about 370 households from that canvassing work. And so everyday canvassing is going to help us continue that process to do community conversations, kind of drilling down on the different themes and topics that came up. And we will be developing what the grant calls the Neighborhood Action Plan, but we're going to be calling it our Children's Agenda. So it's a lot of different balls in the air at once, but it's a new approach to collaborative development efforts. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity and potential with the other initiatives that are going on in our communities as well.
Any questions?
Just one. I believe I know the answer to this, but there is no match on the county's part to this.
No. We'll be using like our staff capacity that we have in the LMB office. We may use some of our community partnership dollars to leverage some of the activities in our FY26 budget. But for now, this award actually expires June 30th. So we have about 5 months to complete these activities. We may be able to get an extension till September, but we'd have to request that.
You have anything?
No, I'm fine.
Then I'd like to make a motion to accept the LMB Capacity Building Award grant.
And I'll second that. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim, I know Dan Matson, our Public Works, Environmental Operations Division, Motor Equipment Operator, 2 vacancy. I guess it is, Jim, it's a hire.
I know the one before me there was one, I think, from the state's attorney's office. Got cancer. Oh, good, Vanessa. Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And by the way, we're sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
Thank you. So 2 items for you this morning. The first is that the MEO2 vacancy, you have the materials about the candidate that's been recommended. Vinay has all the details from the interviews, you know, the application, the resume, I think, and also the list of, and if there was, and the list of individuals who were considered for the position. You know, so I'll just open it to see if there's any questions about the recommended candidate, and go from there.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional offer of employment to the recommended candidate for the vacant MEO2 position at the recommended salary.
And I'll second that. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Very good.
Thank you.
And then again, you're up. I know in the past, every year, just for the audience's sake, we have a Christmas, an appreciation dinner. And just out of curiosity, we've been doing it for a number of years, but we asked you to do an employee appreciation dinner survey summary.
Yes, sir.
What they like about it, what they didn't like about it, how could we improve it? Because it's really the one, we as commissioners kind of take it serious because it's the one day out of the year where we actually get to thank the employees for all they do to make Kent County operate and show our appreciations. And it is a challenging one because that many people, not a lot of places that could hold that many people. They are, but sometimes they're broke up in different rooms or however, but we just thought maybe a survey might help us put a little better program together because we want it to be a good program. It's as I pointed out, it's a special time of the year, and so that was the purpose of the survey, and you've got the results. And
Yes,
you're
sir.
here to speak about them.
Yeah, and we provided to you a spreadsheet that details all the responses from everyone who responded, who attended, but we also surveyed all the employees. So we wanted to include individuals who didn't attend the event for whatever reason to get their feedback as to why they possibly didn't come. We also included a summary memo that Rachel put together of some of the highlights of the survey itself. And what we found was that it kind of became clear in reading some of the information that December is just a tough time of the year. We have about a third of the employees who are able to attend the event, which is a pretty large gap of folks who don't get there for one reason or another, and there's a variety of those. And then there's also an attachment, a memo from me describing some different approaches to recognizing the employees and to actually providing more opportunities to do that throughout the course of the year. Offered for your consideration as we start to make plans, since Pat graciously sent us our budget package about 2 hours ago. We'll start making plans for the FY26 budget. And if the commissioners are amenable, we'd like to consider some or all of the things that are in the recommendations memo as we build the FY26 budget.
So, Jim, can you share with us exactly what is the budget for the employee appreciation?
For FY25, it was $26,000, if I'm remembering correctly. We haven't started to build the for 25. We haven't started to build the 26 budget yet. But what we're thinking about is really, instead of one event in December, which would encompass the food and the service awards and everything that's entailed, is really parsing it out into 3 events during FY '26. Instead of perhaps a dinner event in December, where we're not seeing as much response as we'd like, for a whole host of reasons, and maybe doing something in the summer where we might be able to invite and get more employees to participate and maybe include families. And then in December, do something where we could show our appreciation to the employees with a gift of some sort. And then in March, there's a date in March which is nationally recognized as Employee Appreciation Day. And we were kind of dovetailing off of that idea to make that event specific to the individuals who are getting service awards. A couple of the things that we heard from the survey responses was individuals who were getting service awards because it was grouped in with the general dinner and all the event and things that were going on there. They didn't feel as special about being recognized for 10 or 15 or 20 years as they kind of would like to be. So we thought there might be an idea to hold an event specifically that was for the individuals who would be getting service awards, invite them, and if they were celebrating big milestone events, 25, 30 years, even invite their families, do something like that during the day, give them an opportunity to really be recognized with their peers who were also getting service award, and separate that from general employee appreciation. I don't think we can do it with the same 26 that we had last year, but a number of the component pieces are going to be the same, so there's going to be some differences, plus prices continue to rise anyway. That's as much as I've got for you at the moment.
All right, well, I did look at the survey results because I was curious to know what our employees thought, and we have a lot of great employees. I feel like they need to be shown that they are appreciated. And by having this event, which the county has had this event for a lot of years now, what I might like to suggest that you think about, and this is just a suggestion, just my suggestion, I don't know how Commissioner Fithian or Commissioner Nickerson feels, but the holiday is a very busy time of the year. You know, we have Thanksgiving, and then we go right into Christmas, and a lot of families and folks are busy getting ready to celebrate that. So it may be time that we consider maybe doing a mid-January event, as opposed, yeah, everybody likes the holiday time, but it's so busy, and that could maybe increase the attendance if we were to have it maybe a little later in January, mid-January. I do like the idea of doing some type of family event for the employees during the summer, not necessarily March. I'd like for the weather to be warm. We have a lot of resources here in the county with Parks and Rec, and that was suggested that maybe we do a family employee appreciation day.
Yeah, and Joe and I briefly chatted about that idea as well, and we thought there might be some real value in doing that. In terms of moving the dinner to like a January or February event, something like that, my only hesitation there is that we're still going to run into the same problem with places, venues that would really be able to accommodate our size. So we still may run into, for whatever reason, 2/3 of the employees not being engaged in that event. That's why we kind of suggested the idea of one that's strictly for people getting service awards, their tenure with the organization, one that's a family event. So we're looking at like March, July, and then maybe around Thanksgiving with a gift to all the employees, and parsing it out that way. Because as President Fithian mentioned, you all want the staff to know how much you recognize the efforts, and this would actually give you 3 opportunities to do that.
Well, I still believe that maybe moving the event might be a good idea.
Absolutely look into that as well.
That's my opinion.
Sure.
And I would echo, I agree wholeheartedly that having something of this scale in December is a real trick, because we all have a number of things going on and our calendars are full, and it's to try to, I completely agree that we could do something different. And I tell you, having it in the warmer months, I mean, look, they're in the more beautiful place around to hold a bunch of people than our community center, especially in the summertime with the pool area open. I mean, you could put a little bit of thought into that, and you got the whole hall for if you wanted to have a dinner later in the day. You have all the pool area for the kids, and if you're really going to make a family event out of it, I don't think there's a better place in Kent County than our community center,
Yeah,
just
that's
because of
good
all
thought.
it has to offer.
Certainly,
So just
certainly
look.
thought, what we thought might be a possibility, and talking with Jill briefly, you know, she thought there was some value to approaching it that way. A Saturday or a Sunday, an opportunity for more of the employees and their families to participate. We thought there was a number of possibilities to it, and you know, we can continue to, you know, to kind of research and plan some things out and talk about it as part of the FY26 budget. But we wanted you to know what we found and what we learned from from the staff's responses, and you know, where they think they could maybe be better recognized, and we know that that's what your goals are.
Anything else, John?
I have some other things here listed, but I'll save that for the budget process.
Okay. Then I think I tend to think that we're in agreement with doing away with the something at Christmas. And we'll let you all take this information back with a few of the ideas and see what you can come up with, and maybe we'll plan something for this coming summer.
We'll be happy to work on that. Absolutely.
Okay, that's satisfactory, John? Okay. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Public Works Director, Dan Mattson. Have a Sultana request for use of Quaker Neck Public Landing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Afternoon.
So, Environmental Operations Division of Public Works received a request from the Sultana Education Foundation. The request is to use the Quaker Neck Public Landing from June 30th through July 12th, with the exception of the weekend of July 4th, 5th, and 6th. On the surface, we don't take any immediate issue with this. The Sultana has been using our landings for some time annually. However, because of the dates in question surrounding the 4th of July holiday, I wasn't comfortable just making an approval absent any input from the commissioners, to be honest with you. So,
When they say they want to use it, you want to
and
explain
I
it a
have
little
a
further?
representative from Sultana
Yeah,
here.
my name is Forrest Richards. I'm one of the captains of the Sultana. So we run summer programs, and during those 2 weeks, the week before the 4th and the week after the 4th, we're running day camp programs where students arrive in the morning and depart in the evening and are not staying on the vessel overnight. And to facilitate that program and take students a little bit further down the river, being a part of the river that's a little more conducive to sailing the vessel and visiting beaches and sort of enjoying the Chester River with the students. It's been, over the last 2 years, really beneficial to be using Quaker Neck Landing's public pier. What that kind of entails is, so like on June the 30th, we would arrive at that public landing at about 3 p.m. The students get picked up at 4, so it'd be sometime in there, you know, weather and tides and everything sort of involved. And then on July 1st and 2nd, the students arrive at 9, so we'd be off the dock by 10 a.m. Typically, it's usually about 9:15 all the students are there and we leave, but I am sort of giving you a little margin of error there. And we wouldn't return back to the public landing until 3 p.m., with the students departing at about 4. On July 3rd, we depart at 10 a.m. and we wouldn't return until July 7th. So that's a 4-day program, so the program starts in Chestertown on the first day, and then it leaves Quaker Neck Landing and returns to Chestertown on the 4th day. So then on July 7th, it would be sort of a repeat of that, where on July 7th, we'd arrive at 3 p.m. July 8, 9, and 10, it would be that departing before 10 a.m. and returning around 3 p.m. And then, because we're looking to provide a opportunity for our donors to watch the log canoe races that Saturday out of Rock Hall, we were hoping to not move the boat at all on July 11th, and then on the 12th, our donors would come on the morning of the 12th, they'd go watch the races. We'd bring them back to the landing, and then we'd depart as soon as we'd offloaded the passengers and return to Chestertown. So that's what the entire sort
So
of,
really, the only thing you're looking for is for a place to load and unload these students onto the Sultana safely, and get them to wherever you're going.
you understand it completely. And then also leave the boat there overnight with a crew member on board. There'd be a crew member on board whenever, there's a crew member on board every night.
And there's adequate space there that you can, haven't been down there for a while. I don't know whether it's
Yeah,
a T
yeah.
on the end of the pier.
No, totally, I understand. So on that note, let me say thank you to the commissioners for the time and money they've spent improving the public landings. If they hadn't rebuilt the pier at Quaker Neck Landing, Sultana couldn't tie up there. They've done a wonderful job with that. So we tie up to the face of that pier, and then there's what's probably a 25-foot face on either end of it, upriver and downriver, that remains open. So yeah, there's plenty of space for us to tie up, and then you can access the ends of that pier, which is like a large rectangle kind of footprint.
You're obviously able to do this without interfering with the slip holders and things like that.
Yes, sir. For the last 2 years, we've been doing it, and, there's a couple of working watermen who use that pier to load and unload their catch every day, and they haven't made any complaints to us about doing it. They've managed to work right there off the end. And then, as I said, for the bulk of the day, we're not even there. So, it's when they're loading their boats in the morning, we're there usually because they're leaving before students are arriving. And then by the time they've returned and offload their catch, we're not even there. Like, by the time we're back there, selling their crab somewhere.
And for whatever it's worth, we haven't received any complaints about you either.
That's great to hear, yeah.
To the contrary, I know a lot of children that's been on board the Sultana. They all really look forward to that. But John, do you have any questions?
No, I'm very familiar with the landing and have offloaded my catch there from time to time as well. But there does appear to be enough room there for you to do what you want to do. So I guess you're looking for an official motion.
Yes, please. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement. This feels like an appropriate use of the landing, doesn't present significant issues. I've never experienced firsthand what Quaker Neck Landing looks like on the 4th of July, so I wanted to bring it to your attention.
busy.
I can, yes.
It's busy.
So I wanted to make sure. I don't need an official motion in order to approve this. I have the ability to approve it myself. So if you are in favor of it, I can handle that approval.
Just go ahead and make it.
You
We'll be
can-
done.
Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we allow and approve Sultana's request for the use of Quaker Neck Public Landing for overnight docking and drop-off and pickup of students for their summer programs. The requested dates, and correct me if I'm wrong, is June 30th to July 3rd, July 7th through July 12th.
Yes, sir.
So the only day, and you said you wouldn't want to be there on the 4th anyhow because you're going to another,
No, sir. We don't run summer programs at all on the 4th of July.
okay, I kind of thought so. All right, so if that's suitable, that's
That's
my
fantastic.
motion.
Thank you.
And I'll second that. So you got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Only one complaint I got is that you've never took us out on the Sultana. I hear all these kids, how great it is and how much they enjoy it and how great they're treated when they're on there, and we're still waiting for an invitation. So, no, I'm joking with you.
No, I'll pass it up the food chain at the organization. We'll
Very
get the
good.
invite going.
But thank you,
Hey.
and thank you for the work that you all do.
Thank you very much.
We're very lucky
Thank you.
to have you all here.
Thank
For
you.
sure.
You do great work.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Is that it? Dan,
That is all I have today.
everything else going good, or new building out here?
Yes, yes, I believe, well, pending weather, we anticipate that the building shell itself will be up by the end of next week. That could get pushed depending on the storm today. So that project is advancing quickly. The Bayside Landing project is underway as well. The demolition has been completed, and they are preparing to do test piles before full reconstruction starts. The project in the courthouse lobby is nearing completion as well. So, yes, we are making good progress on a number of fronts.
Actually, I got to say that in my time being here, we've got a lot going on,
We do.
and it's a lot of good stuff. I think that's what we'll be talking about at our next meeting, but it's good to see a lot of things taking shape.
And it's even better that so many of them are funded via grants as well. So we have some county projects and a lot of grant-funded projects in the works as well, so, yes.
Good.
Well, I did ride by, and there's a lot of lumber up in the air out there on Flatland Road.
Yes, sir.
So it should be a very, very nice facility for our EMS providers, and should serve the county well for a long time, I hope.
Yes, sir.
Any update on our snow that might be arriving?
Well, I can advise that the County Roads Department delayed reporting today. They'll be reporting at about 2 o'clock as opposed to their normal time in the morning. They intend to work through the storm, keeping roads clear. We do expect that today will be a wetter, heavier snow than we had seen prior storms this year. And there is not significant wind forecast after the storm. So whereas about a month ago, we had the issue where it was about 6 inches, but every day there were sections of road that looked just as bad as when the snow fell because of drifts.
Right.
We don't anticipate that with this storm, thankfully. Temperatures are also forecast to rise starting tomorrow and stay above freezing for a few days with some rain Wednesday night. So with the timing and everything, tomorrow morning, things could be a little dicey on the road, but by about midday tomorrow, I fully expect that we are well handled.
Very good.
Yes.
Just have a quick question. I attended a meeting with Mayor Foster at the town hall last week, I think it was, or the week before. But, and the snow plowing came up, during the conversation. And I'm really not familiar, well, I know why we stop at the town lines, but is there a liability reason or just, I mean, if they requested it, could we help them with their snow removal? Any municipality, Rock Hall?
I don't believe there would be a significant liability concern. We have the vehicles certainly to do it. It would be a balancing act between the rotations we do through county roads, because the way our plowing system, I'll call it, is set up, we have 9 routes throughout the county that have about two MEOs in a dump truck per route. They go a full circuit through their route, and when all 9 are completed, it takes about 6 hours or so to do one pass through the routes. After that, they'll come back to the shop, refuel the truck, do a couple spot checks of the mechanics, get some quick rest, food, drink, that kind of thing, and get back out there for another round. So we would need to coordinate when that would happen. It would be a coordination exercise more than anything, I think, to ensure that if we were to put off the next round through the plow routes for 6 hours to help a town, we would just need to do that at the appropriate time. But I think it would be possible, yes.
If you take the state highways out of the picture, which they're done by the state highway.
We do not touch state highways.
I mean, why don't you take a look at the mileage they have and the number of streets, and then we'll have a chat about it for
Absolutely.
the next time around.
Okay.
That's good enough?
I think so. I would like to see us be able to partner with the municipalities if we can to try to help them.
Okay.
As long as you have the staff and the equipment to do it.
Of course. Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Excuse me, Pat, next up is the county administrator's report, and we sort of touched on the Senate Bill 0843, school construction / local cost share, but you want
Oh, okay, I'm
to, you have
sorry.
anything else to add?
The item before that, the,
House Bill
contingency.
0736.
For the fund balance money for Rockwell.
yeah, so we want to take the other one first?
Well, I was just postponing, I don't see anybody from Rockall here, unless we
Well,
don't.
we kind of told him that he wouldn't have to come.
Oh, okay, good, very good
I
then.
mean, and it's my understanding that Commissioner Nickerson has spoken with Shelley and that he is in favor of following through with.
He spoke to me as well, and that's correct. So we're good to go.
So,
Yeah, so the town of Rock Hall is requesting $394,595 for the emergency replacement of the water plant filtration system. And as you stated, this was discussed, I guess, back on November 6th and kind of tabled. So if you're ready to make a decision, I guess we can move forward.
The decision was sort of made before, but I don't know whether we put it in a form of a motion.
I don't think we did.
I think we need a motion.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion that we allocate $394,595 for the emergency replacement of the water plant filterization system that was discussed previously to the town of Rock Hall, utilizing the fund balance.
And I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
I would also like to add that it's our understanding that should Rock Hall receive any type of funding from the state, which they haven't at this point, that they replace some of the fund balance that we're offering to them with that funding, if possible.
That's what I was going to add as well, so. All right,
Okay.
now we're down to public comment and media review. Sandra, you want to check and see if anyone has signed up?
And I guess there was the report out of the House Bill 0736, Senate Bill 0843. Just to report out that this was discussed during the February 14th meeting. You approved the staff to draft a letter. The letter was signed on February 5th and emailed to the recipients, so.
Mr. Richards inadvertently signed here. He discussed his
Okay.
item with Dan Mattson, so we just have three.
This is the guy from Sultana. He
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
dressed up.
And this House Bill 0736, I assume that's what's taking place today, and that's where Commissioner Nickerson is there testifying on behalf of the county.
So the letter's been sent.
Yes.
Yes.
It'll be uploaded to the General Assembly portal and when it's open to receive testimony.
Thank you.
Now we're up to the public comment media review, and we have three individuals that have signed up, first being Mr. Chris Jennings. Mr. Jennings? Welcome.
Thank you, Ron. In the interest of not using up too much of your time, I have some prepared comments, and they're related to Mayor Foster's ongoing proposals for tax equalization. And I'm not here to ask for anything. I'm actually here just to make a suggestion. I've gotten deep into this issue because I have a great deal of fondness for Kent County,
and also for Chestertown. And I'm afraid this is becoming a more and more divisive issue. I ask you for a few minutes of your time, but before I begin, let me say that my analysis has made me sympathetic to both the town and the county's points of view. I have some handouts of this to take away if you want them. First, please allow me a moment to set the table with respect to the tax realities faced by all Kent County residents. As Marylanders, according to the Tax Foundation, in terms of total tax burden, we rank 5th out of 50 states, exceeded only by the states of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and California. As Kent County residents, we pay the highest tax rate allowable by state law, 3.2%. And this Maryland tax burden, which falls on all Kent County residents, whether they live in the town or outside of it, is only going to get worse. As most of us know, Governor Moore's budget fell short by $3 billion. He's plugged about $1.5 billion of that hole, but it's still not closed. And according to the Department of Legislative Services, those budget deficits just keep getting larger. By 2030, they'll be over $6 billion. The state's tax burden also makes Maryland a very poor option for businesses. Maryland now ranks 49th of 50 states in private select sector job formation. And I think we all know that it's private sector wages and income that pay the taxes that keep government going. My point, we all live in an overtaxed, poorly managed, and very low-growth state that, like our federal government, has painted itself into a fiscal corner. Not only are we in Kent County paying the tax price for this, we're going to soon have to pay more. Second, please allow me to set the table with respect to Kent County households' pre-tax income realities and their capacity to pay these ever-rising taxes. By population, we are obviously the state's smallest county, largely agrarian, and like all of Maryland, with a barely growing tax base. Our median household income is $74,000, 75% of the median household income of the entire state. That places us 16th among the state's 24 counties. Our population, now estimated at 19,300, has been on a trend decline since 2010. But our elderly population, those 65 and older, and those least able to deal with inflation and rising taxes, has been our most rapidly growing age group, increasing 23% from 2010 to 2023. While the 35 to 45 age group in our county, those who tend to be at the peak of their capacities as breadwinners and taxpayers, appear to have been leaving. They've declined by 19% over the same time period. My point, we are not a wealthy county and have few prospects of becoming one. Given the 20+% increase in the Consumer Price Index over the last 4 years, there are many in Kent County, especially our elderly, who are struggling to make ends meet. The Maryland tax burdens that will continue to impact Kent County's households will eventually become unbearable for many of us. And yet it was in this tax and household income environment that Mayor Foster is asking 75% of Kent County residents to subsidize the approximately 25% of our residents who live in Chestertown. So third and finally, please allow me to make some observations and then a suggestion. This old CPA and financial analyst, in his view, Chestertown is showing what appear to be some financial red flags, perhaps indicative of coming financial stress. I'm admittedly going to do this analysis in a vacuum, referencing the town's 2024 comprehensive annual financial statements without access to underlying detail, although I must say that town's manager, Larry DeRee, has been most cordial and most helpful and frankly very diplomatic in helping me get underneath some of these numbers. Chestertown's statement of net position, the town's balance sheet, was very strong at June 30th, 2024. It had cash and investments of $8.5 million and total current assets of $9.4 million, against a total of all liabilities of $5.6 million. You're blessed with an extraordinary CPA and financial person in Pat Merritt, and she'd be the first to tell you that those are awful good coverage ratios from a balance sheet standpoint. However, the town's statement of activities, which is equivalent to a for-profit's income statement, shows a total 2024 excess of expense over revenues of almost $750,000. Consider that a loss. And a reduction in the town's net position, roughly equivalent to a for-profit shareholder's equity of a similar amount. $128,000 of that loss was attributable to government activities, and almost $600,000 was attributable to the town's business activities, namely its utilities commission, water and sewer, and the marina. Please note, however, that in 2023, the town's excess of revenues over expenses was a surplus of $2.8 million versus that negative of $750,000 deficit in 2024 that I just referenced. Thus, between 2023 and 2024, there was a negative swing in the town's revenues and expenses of $3.5 million. Why such a large year-over-year negative swing from the town's surplus to a deficit? One reason is that they spend a lot of money. The other is that the town has historically benefited from state and federal subsidies and grants. However, during 2024, the external operating grants, capital grants, and contributions to the town declined by $2.3 million, or 73%, year over year. This was mostly because the town's second tranche of the $4.5 million it received from the $1.9 trillion Federal America Rescue Plan was received in fiscal 2023, and nothing replaced that in 2024. Given the huge federal deficits and their related inflationary pressures, the days of one-time generous subsidies from the federal government are coming to an end for Chestertown. Moving on briefly with respect to the town's two non-government businesses or enterprise funds, the Chestertown Utilities Commission has significant accumulated depreciation relative to its assets. And I noted that its current rate of depreciation relative to the book value of its plant implied that its assets only have 9 years of remaining life. While Pat would agree that this is a very rough smell test, it suggests an aging plant in need of investment, and this, in fact, is true, especially with respect to the town's aging water pumping and distribution system, much of which needs to be replacement. The Maryland Department of the Environment has apparently pledged $7.8 million to Chestertown for this purpose, but Little Kent County and Chestertown are rounding errors in the political calculus of Annapolis. And given Maryland's current and future budget deficits, as noted earlier, there is no guarantee that these funds will actually materialize, leaving Chestertown holding the bag, as the Kent County has itself with things like highway funds in the past. As to the Chestertown Marina, it barely breaks even, but the general fund is paying its annual $98,000 in debt service, which will go on for quite a while. I could go on with this analysis, but I'm going to spare you. My point is that there are some serious red flags in Chestertown's financial statements that indicate current operating deficits and possible future challenges. The town has balance sheet liquidity, but that could disappear fast in the face of the town's ongoing operating deficits and capital investment demands. In my view, Mayor Foster's apparent concerns about Chestertown's financial capacity to meet its many future obligations without the participation of Kent County's taxpayers have considerable merit. So, to an objective and fair observer, there are reasonable arguments on both sides of this tax equalization argument. For instance, from the county's perspective, among many other things, the county spends $2 million a year to fund an emergency EMT service that benefits all of Kent County's towns. 60% of our sheriff's department's calls are in Chestertown. The county voluntarily contributes over 6 figures to the Chestertown Fire Department, and it funds the detention center. And the county provides numerous other services to the town, including tax collection. On the other side of the argument, from the mayor's perspective, among many other things, Chestertown is burdened by the tax-exempt entities of a college, hospital, churches, and county offices, which pay no taxes, while simultaneously providing everything from an expensive visitor center and tourism promotion, which cost it $300,000 last year, to the administration effort of hosting the many special events that make Kent County a wonderful tourist destination. And let's not forget, town residents pay county taxes as well as town taxes. So to any analyst who looks objectively at the financial details, that analyst can have sympathy for both sides. But instead of having tax equalization be such a divisive issue, perhaps there is a collaborative way forward that can help reduce any present and coming tax pain to Chestertown residents without adding to the tax burden on everyone else in Kent County. Our suggestion that the county and the town mutually explore ways to eliminate 2 significant redundancies while simultaneously reducing town expenses. The effort demands unemotional, cooperative analysis and a willingness to compromise. At the town's general government level, the category public safety, which includes the Chestertown Police Department, cost the town taxpayers $1.6 million in 2024. It has a staff headcount of 11, all with salaries, benefits, and pension expense. The Chestertown Police Department also has its own administrative infrastructure, vehicles, and capital expense. The Chestertown Public Works Department cost the town $1.4 million in 2024. It had a staff headcount of 15. It has its own trucks, backhoes, and facilities. Those facilities are just about 1 mile from the county's similar facilities on Morgneck Road. Collectively, these 2 Chestertown government departments accounted for about $3 million or 60% of Chestertown's 2024 government direct expenses, 70% of its headcount, and approximately a similar percentage of its salary, benefit, and pension expenses. The county and town council could sit down and work together to find ways to consolidate these redundant functions into the county sheriff's department and the county's public works department, eliminating overlaps, redundancy, and headcount, and sharing related costs, equipment, and eventually the cost of some town capital projects. The cost savings and improvement in efficiency could be considerable, and they are worth cooperative study. Anyway, wrapping up, the solution to the town's emerging challenges are not to raise Chestertown town taxes. Maryland Group 1 real estate taxes will be going up 20% statewide. Group 3 is already up 23%, with Group 2 to follow in 2026. And we note that the town's own state and state-shared income taxes declined $90,000 or 10% last year. How much of this decline is due to town outmigration? That's unknown. But taxpayer outmigration is a reality in Maryland now, and it's accelerating. We shouldn't want to force any more taxpayers to flee Kent County or the town. And the solution is not tax equalization either, between the town and the rest of the county. A totally apolitical hypothesis is that most of rural Kent County is tax challenged, especially the elderly, is ideologically and politically deep red, and sees Chestertown as very blue. And this more rural and red electorate represents about 70% of the county's registered voters who are resentful of the idea. The commissioners probably know this calculus, making them highly unlikely to condone tax equalization, and they want to stay in office. So it boils down to downsizing for Chestertown, expense reduction, and seeking increased productivity and efficiency from people and resources. Isn't it time for the county and the town to cooperatively find ways to cut expenses while becoming more efficient and effective with taxpayer dollars? Thank you.
Very good. All right.
That was awesome.
Very nicely done. David Sobers.
Likewise, I have some prepared remarks, but they're in the form of an outline and not a narrative. And I would commend that previous presentation was excellent, excellent, excellent. So I'm here on the tax equity issue as well. I am a resident of Chestertown, Maryland, live on Byford Court. Have been a Kent County, Chestertown resident since 2008. And the problem, as stated by the previous speaker, at least in part, is the tax equity. And the goal statement which I've written is to try to achieve equity between the county and Chestertown. And I think there are legal reasons as well as moral ones to do that. We already spend about $3 million a year for public safety, public works, namely roads, and park projects. And those monies are typically in the rest of the county covered by the county, for which we receive no direct revenue flow. So there's a study was performed, as the county commissioners are keenly aware, by the University of Maryland, and they determined and that there was this inequity, and that the way to solve it was to either reduce the property tax in Chestertown to offset those services which the town provides, or alternatively to make an annual payment. And there hasn't, as David Foster will note, been annual payments for decades to this end. And if you apply the $900,000, which is the current value that the University of Maryland identified, over an estimated 40 years, you're talking about a very large sum of money that the town has not received. Clearly, we're not going to go back either in the town or in the county to try to recover those kinds of monies. That's impractical. But certainly going forward, we can apply the rule of law, which provides for taxation with representation. And on that component, some will argue we don't have that presently in Chestertown. And then secondly, that all people are treated equally. So both of those principles, I think, bear in this question. And my final point is, how would does the county propose to address this? I think that the points that are very well done. I have struggled too with trying to address why the county is not moving ahead as much as it should. And a couple thoughts come to mind. One of them is that I born and raised in the Washington metropolitan area, went to the University of Maryland, so in that sense I'm local. But when I talk to my colleagues back in the metropolitan area of Washington or Baltimore, and I tell them where I live, they say, that's nice, where's Chestertown? People don't know where Chestertown is in a global sense. We know because we live here, and people that visit us get to know it and value it and admire it for what it is. But I don't think we do enough to publicize ourselves, and I think we should make an effort to do that. As you suggested, consolidation, we have two school systems in Queen Anne's County and Kent County. There's no reason to have, for this small population in those two counties, two completely separate systems. And consolidation, as you've noted, would also benefit at the county level in terms of expenditures, still keeping independent elected education commissioners and boards so that the interests of the county are properly represented. But on the basic services of administration and personnel and public works, that same principle could apply. So I would, things are critical, and I am sympathetic with the Kerwin plan and what that's looming. I think there are ideas such as we've suggested that would bear having a blue ribbon committee. And on that committee should be some of the better thought-provoking individuals, such as the previous speaker, but also the leaders of the major industries, Dixon Valve and so forth, that would sit on that blue ribbon committee and help try to sort through this. I think they would help, because it would take some of the politics out of the decision that you were speaking to and deal with it on a pure economic basis. Any questions for me?
No, sir, but I appreciate your comments.
Okay.
I think both yourself and Mr. Jennings at this point have presented some very interesting concepts that definitely need to be looked at very, very closely. As far as the duplication of, let's say, the sheriff's office and the town police, because of where I came from, that's been an ongoing conversation that I've had with the mayor over the years, and it's probably time that we start to really take a really close look at that. In fact, I even touched on the roads today about the snowplow. There's a way for us to coordinate and partner to reduce everyone's cost. And I really think that I like the idea of working in that effort to address some of the costs associated with the operating of those two different departments.
Look, just as David Foster has suggested that the county participate in the tax equity question, that the University of Maryland responded to, you all could commission a study, whether it's self-performed or with a contractor, to look at your issues in cost out and identify the benefits, hopefully in a clear fashion.
I know during our discussion with Mayor Foster, we have prepared some information that we want to share with him to take a look at. And to me, it's the piece that has been missing throughout this entire conversation. Because yes, there has been political tension. A lot of it has to do with the way the information is presented, or maybe even received. But I do think there's a way that we can have an open dialogue and an honest conversation about it, and hopefully resolve it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm assuming you're going to be here for the meeting with Mayor Foster. So,
Yes, I will.
So
I will.
somebody here, I think it was Mr. Jennings, touched on some of the things that we've asked Pat to prepare, and we're going to save that for that meeting, I guess. But so I think we're going in the right direction. And I met you for the first time the other night at the town hall meeting, and I was impressed with how you presented your information and your offer of some advice.
Reciprocal point of view on my part. I appreciate you showing up, and you stayed for the entire session and afterwards to address questions, and I think that's good. You went into the fire. One of the other things that the county, I think, would benefit from is some sort of a permanent draw for visitors. I mean, the town and Rock Hall, those are great features in the airfield. But it would be nice if the county could come up, encourage permanent destinations that and I don't have all the answers, but one that comes to mind like is a car museum. It could be in conjunction with the airfield. That would be a destination that people would go to all year round. I mean, we have the Tea Party and downrigging, and those are great events, get great draws. But in terms of a constant year-round draw, I struggle to think of something other than our natural beauty and marina and historic features. And those are all good, and I'm not saying they're not. But if we could add icing to the cake, that would, I think would be good. Thank you for your time.
And coming from someone with no police experience whatsoever, when I look at the two different operations in the town and in the county, it's very hard for me to believe that there isn't some significant savings available by those two working together.
Yeah. Key to that, I worked in Montgomery County for a quarter of a century in the environmental area, handled some of the most contentious issues that you could imagine in terms of locating environmental facilities. So I'm used to the dynamics that you're facing. But one of the things that would bring success to what you just said, and I agree with what you're saying, is to be able to demonstrate that if there was consolidation or streamlining, however it took place, that the level of service would remain high to the town. I think that would be key, and I'm not sure how you do that, but that takes a lot of thought.
I think the town and the county working together to try to, especially in law enforcement, I think that's a perfect place to start. That I feel there's some significant savings that can be made. I think the people of Kent County appreciate that type of work more so than the taxation issue part of it. I think if you could save $500,000 by somehow working together, those two agencies, and I bet you that much savings is there by just, as I said, coming from somebody that knows nothing about it, just looking at the duplications of a sheriff and a chief of police and a headquarters and another headquarters, and it just seems like to me that that's where I would look forward to that type of a discussion more so than lowering taxes, which in one area, which would cause us to have to raise taxes countywide. And I'm not sure we also have to pay attention to what's coming down from the state to us that we can't ignore, which every time in my time, and I've been here for a lot of years, but I remember back in 2008, 9, somewhere along there when we had that financial problem, the state under Governor O'Malley took all of our highway money away from us that was generated through the gas tax. To little old Kent County, that was $2.5 million. They promised us we would get it back. We've got about 10%, maybe 15%. The towns did get the vast majority of theirs back. But those kind of things are hard to deal with. I will say, as far as taxes in Kent County, you go back 24 years, there's been increases and decreases and increases and decreases. The tax rate in the last 24 years has gone up by a penny. Now, obviously, the assessments have gone up, and that's where you see the difference in your tax rate. But our tax rate by the county has went up 1 cent in 24 years. We had to raise it 5 cents the year they took our highway money, either that or dissolve county roads, because they took every dime of it. And that used to be separate, completely separate from our general fund. As a matter of fact, there was even years where it paid for the equipment, the employees, the salaries, all of that. And we even, at one time, we carried a couple $100,000 fund balance in that fund, which done nothing but took care of county roads. They come and wiped it out. We had to raise tax. They took $2.5 million and we raised our taxes by 5 cents, would give us $1.5 million in additional taxes so that we could continue to maintain the county road. But it's those kind of trickle-down things. Already, they're asking the assessment office, where we pay 50%, the state pays 50%. I don't know whether it's going to be approved, but now they're already asking for us to pay 90% and then pay 10%. Must be nice to be able to get in a jam and pass it down.
Trickle down.
Trickle down.
Economics, right?
Yeah, that's a different trickle down than what I'm
Well,
used to.
negative character, yeah.
But listen, I appreciate the fact that I like the idea of discussing these issues. How can we avoid this duplication that we talk about? And I truly believe there's ways to do it.
One of the things that I instituted for the Washington metropolitan area as a Montgomery County representative was consolidated purchases. We did it initially on fuel purchases when we had the gas crisis in the 70s. And I took the Montgomery County contract, I hired a broker, and we reduced the cost by hundreds of thousands of dollars initially with just 2 member jurisdictions. And when the other jurisdictions saw that cost reduction, they jumped on the wagon. And that's something that I think would benefit for Kent County, where Kent County, through its purchasing office, would have a lead contract. And when you buy more of something, you get it at a lower unit cost. I mean, that's just fact.
Certainly.
And the other municipalities could jump in on that. And Queen Anne's County, which is our sister county, could also benefit from that, and maybe we would ride on their contracts. There are a lot of pretty simplistic ideas that can save huge sums of money that need to be pursued. On the fairness of taxation, though, I forget whether it's the average income level in Chestertown versus the non-municipal area of Kent County is like half. So our household income is like half of what it is out there. So tax equities is still a fair question to be raised and dealt with when you have that disharmony.
I think one of the things that we look at least I'm talking about me now, and I personally think that when we talk about the double taxation, and I'm sure we'll get into more of that in our meeting down the road here, but I think we have a tendency to ignore a lot of the things that the town gets from the county, that it's fun getting it and nice getting it, but we just soon forget about it and not talk about it. I think the county provides a lot of things that we don't get credit for.
They should be itemized. They should be itemized on a list, so it's pretty obvious.
As
And
John
then,
spoke.
just as we're itemizing in the town, what we're doing that we think you should,
Sure.
So, that's fair.
No,
That
I
is
agree.
absolutely fair. And I think the problem is so acute that you should have, with all due respect, quarterly meetings, not every month. I mean, that's too much. Quarterly meetings with Chestertown and the other interested municipalities to go over this, because it is just, what's pending from the state of Maryland is scary.
It
And
is.
what's happening in the federal government, with the loss of federal employees from the DC area and the tax revenues that are going to go down, whoa. It's scary.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yes,
I
sir.
would like to say one more thing real quick.
Please.
I'm sitting here looking out at the folks here today, and the idea of maybe a commission or a committee to help us actually motor through this. I see 3 of you sitting right there right now. Yourself, Mr. Jennings, Mr. Wall, that could be very, very beneficial in helping the commissioners and the mayor and council achieve exactly what we just discussed here this morning, or this afternoon. So if you would, if all three of you would actually leave your full name, phone number, how to contact you, email address, if you're willing to serve, I would like to suggest that maybe we think about doing that. And at a later time, we may reach out to you to see if you're willing to serve, and if so, try to put something together,
Sure, absolutely.
if you're willing to do that.
And I would,
Thank you.
and I would go along with that wholeheartedly.
May I?
It's been more, better discussion here right now in the last half hour than it's been in a long time.
Nothing clears the air when there are emotional arguments floating around than getting down to the hard facts. And if you're going to have some committee like that, I think what would be very, very beneficial would be having Pat be part of that and having the town's financial person, or maybe even the town's manager, Larry, be part of that. Because they can get down into the weeds, down into the detail that would enable us to sort of get away from ethereal arguments and right down to what the realities are and what the gaps are that have to be closed.
Very good.
And the fourth person that we would like to maybe involve in this commission just walked in, and that's Kate Gray from KRM. The Dixon representative. I just volunteered you, Kate, don't worry.
Volunteer you.
And I know you would be committed.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
No, it's our
Thank you.
pleasure. Thank you. Next speaker, Mr. Michael McDowell. McDowell. Okay. I saved that.
So, my name is Michael McDowell. I'm Historic District Commissioner. I live at 137 North Queen Street. I've been here for 8 years. I'm also on the Equal Partners Task Force on Pedestrian Safety with the State Highway Administration, the Police Chief and the Mayor. And it's a consensus-oriented group which has achieved a huge amount in 2 years on safety measures, on speeding in town, on car collisions, on pedestrian safety, etc. So the reason I'm mentioning that is to follow what David Sobers is saying, is what we're looking for is an equal partnership between the county and the town. And that has not been so. Indeed, it has been quite acrimonious. And I'm not going to cast all the blame on the town, because we have tried significantly to engage with the commissioners. I'll make a certain exception with Commissioner Price, who I met with one-on-one about a week ago, and we had a firm and frank discussion, a respectful one. But I'm very much into problem solving. I don't have a municipal background, but I had a senior position at the World Bank. And my own budget for my own department was $26 million. And I looked at line items on that budget regularly as a senior manager. And when I look at the county's accounts, I don't see that. I see a lot of general items, and they're not broken down. There needs to be more transparency by the county commissioners in their budget, and therefore I think a partnership between the town and the county on that, and a regular meeting every quarter, as has been suggested, John, by you, would be a very good thing. I won't go into great detail. David's gone into it already. I would make a firm request, though, that this has been a respectful meeting at this point. But the reason David and I are here is we cannot speak at the 3 p.m. meeting. Only the mayor can. And that's very frustrating for residents. So that's why I'm coming twice. So I'll be there at 3. he has a PowerPoint presentation, and I would ask you with respect to allow him to complete the PowerPoint presentation, even if it's up to 20 minutes, because we've been at this for about a year and a half now of meetings where there were interruptions and so on. And I would ask for a respectful hearing by the mayor, who represents us. And with respect, none of you live in Chestertown. You don't represent the town. The mayor does. The council does. We do. So I would ask for a more respectful hearing than has been the case today.
I'm not sure, with all due respect, I'm not sure that I remember a time where we ever cut Mr. David Foster off.
I understand it. If I could just take my
I
time
think
back.
Mayor Foster has been given an opportunity to talk as long as he felt comfortable talking.
I have to say I don't agree, but I don't want the back and forth. I'd like to finish what I'm saying, so I'd like to take my time back. We don't need to go to options, but there are plan Bs. We're not simply, the second raters here who don't get a chance to make our points. We're paying the highest property taxes in the Eastern Shore. That's a fact. And I would like to see more definition within your budget where this money is going. It's not your money, it's my money, and you work for us. We pay your salaries. So there's a representation issue here. There are legal options that we have. Part of my first degrees in law, but I'm not an expert in constitutional law, but in the Maryland Constitution and the federal Constitution, there's the Equal Protection Clause, which means you can't treat another entity more poorly than this one. There is also a question in the Constitution called capricious and arbitrary behaviour by public officials. I have sought, and so has the mayor, advice from 3 partners in senior Washington, D.C. and Baltimore firms. There are cases here. We do not want to go to law. So I would suggest a respectful hearing by the mayor, without interruptions if possible, but certainly questions after, are what we're looking for. Because the reason I'm here is I can't speak, nor could David at the meeting at 3. But I do want to see, I've been dedicated to problem solving all my life. I put together the Disarmament Commission in Northern Ireland, where 3,500 people were killed in a terrible civil conflict. And I'm proud of that. And it got us to yes. And it got us to disarmament. I know how to fix things. But this has got to be much more of an equal partnership than it has been to date. So that's what I would say. I'm not going to belabor it. I'd rather the mayor went over it. We spent a lot of money, well, not a lot, a modest amount of money on the study by the University of Maryland, municipal finance. You guys wouldn't even pay part of it. I thought that was really shocking. And I think you, Mr. Fithian, to be clear, you said you didn't even want to read it. How have you read it?
I've went through it, yes.
You have read it?
Yes. But we disagree.
Well, I would like to hear on what grounds you disagree. Not a glib remark like you disagree. Where do you disagree, and where is the evidence to prove your case? Because I don't hear evidence.
Well, we might show some of that this afternoon.
Good. I hope you do, and I appreciate the time
And
to
as far as the court case, I mean, this whole issue, and believe me, I'm all in favor of the way Mr. Sobers and Mr. Jennings talked about coming together to work things. That's the perfect solution. But threatening with court cases, this issue's been to court. The town of Chestertown signed on with Worcester County or with Ocean City again. This has been tried in court, so that's an old argument.
Let me be clear, that is not a threat. I would always, any planner, long-term planner, always has a plan B. And if we are not successful, we go to Plan B. I don't see a strategy here. I see tactical behaviour. And we have rights as well. And we do not feel represented by you. You
Fair.
don't live in the town.
No, I don't live in Chestertown.
None of you live in the town. Correct?
I don't think that's a qualification for being a county commissioner to begin with.
It's a qualification for speaking with authority about the residents' needs in this town.
I agree.
Right. Thank you. Good day.
Anybody else? Then I will entertain a motion to
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
adjourn. I'll second that. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. We are now adjourned.